60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Right, so there are many opportunities presented to Nigeria just for being the largest economy in the continent that contributes 17% to global population numbers, but less than 5% to global GDP, that's gross domestic product. Now, our non-oil sector contributes just over 92% to GDP, whilst typically contributing less than 15% to our foreign exchange earnings. Yes, I'm talking business. And those are the words from my guest today on 60 Minutes with Angela. With over 30 years professional experience in banking, she was a former senior risk analyst with the Bank of England, and then was headhunted by the former governor of Nigeria's central bank, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, and appointed as his special advisor on risk management. And thereafter, became the pioneer director of risk management in 2009 at the Central Bank of Nigeria. She's also the director of the board of Fountain Holdings Limited, that's the investment arm of the Ekiti state government here in Nigeria. An author, her book Inspiring a Generation. We'll also be talking about that. Well, Folakemi Fatogbe, a double entrepreneur, a pioneer director of risk management at Nigeria's central bank, joins me on the program today. So prior to your joining the central bank in 2009, I'm trying to, chart the journey or your journey to where you are today. What caught my attention was that there was no risk management department in the Central Bank of Nigeria at that time. Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised actually, because the central bank operates in a developing country, and even the most developed economies and countries like the UK, the USA, risk management only really came into its own after there was a crisis. And at that time, because I remember when I started out in risk management,
yes.
You wouldn't even find chief risk officers. Risk management reported into finance. So you would not find a chief risk officer in an institution, and even where you did, such a person reported into the director of finance. It was when we came up with Basel II that there was a serious push, and even Basel I, which are regulatory rules,
yes.
which made it gave banks and the financial sector that sort of incentive to actually start pushing, and it's a capital incentive largely,
yes.
to get their acts together, control the risks that they face by having a strong risk team.
Yes.
So I came in from the UK, and in the UK too, risk management had only started coming into its own maybe 5-10 years earlier.
Yes.
So Nigeria would, like in many African or developing economies, would lag what happens in the West. So I wasn't surprised, but the thinking was already there.
Yes.
They had done some work and had already concluded that a centralized risk function was needed. But the fact that there was not a centralized risk function does not actually mean that risks were not managed. They were just managed in silos.
Yes.
But what a risk team does, a centralized risk team, is to bring all the risks together so that there's that uniform understanding
Yes.
and have a holistic 360 degrees view of risk and the impact that they could have on an organization or an area of business should that risk actually materialize.
Okay, so that brings me to the next question. What is risk management anyway? I mean, I'm thinking logically, it means managing risk that may happen.
Absolutely.
And it could happen in any sphere of life. But why is it necessary to incorporate risk into, say, banking or even at the central bank?
Yes, I guess it's important for many reasons. And to just keep the language simple, risk management is about the management of threats to an entity, a country's, a family's existence. What are the threats that would stop an entity, an individual, an organization from achieving its objectives and to be financially viable? So it's more advanced in the financial sector, but now we're seeing it broaden. We've actually even seen that since the COVID pandemic, that some countries are actually even thinking of having chief risk officers, because the management of COVID was a threat that materialized. And I'll give you another example actually before I go into the COVID details. There were two, and I'll talk about two earthquakes that occurred in the year 2010. It occurred, both countries had earthquakes. One was Haiti, and then the other one was Chile.
Yes.
Now, in Haiti, when it happened in January, and their earthquake was about 7.7 on the scale, the Richter scale, yes. But they lost over 250,000 people in that shock earthquake. A few months later, not even a few months, I think it was on 27th of February actually, Chile also had an earthquake. Theirs was actually much more powerful. It was so powerful, it was actually deemed to be the 5th most powerful earthquake in the world.
In history?
Yes, in history. And it was actually meant to have actually affected the axis of the earth, and it was meant to also have shortened the day slightly because of that movement of the earth's axis. But in that earthquake, they said about only 500 people died, and that was because a few decades earlier Chile had seen a very strong powerful earthquake, which was the worst in the world. And because of that, the people were had been trained, they had imbibed a risk culture of disaster management. Disaster management is one of the areas of risk management. So people knew what to do in the event of an earthquake. Even the buildings, the way they built their buildings, incorporated the learnings from the first earthquake. So when it happened, they were ready. It's like when the pandemic happened at the central bank, we were also ready because we'd already done a lot of work in business continuity and disaster management. So we knew how many people we needed in the building to manage operations, to keep it running. We knew in which teams we needed them. We knew also how we could assist our people in working remotely. So at the time it happened and we knew we needed to shut down, we knew we could continue to provide our essential and critical services to the Nigerian economy and people.
Yes. Okay. So risk exists.
Yes.
in all spheres of life. I mean, you've said that much now. So give me an idea of what would happen if there was no risk management at the central bank.
I guess we've passed that stage,
Yeah.
but for example, we can look at at what happened with the COVID crisis that I just mentioned,
Yes.
the COVID pandemic. If we hadn't done all that work to actually know which were the mandate critical areas where
Yes.
we needed people to actually man operations, and if we hadn't made sure that they were all equipped and other, maybe not so essential staff, but some other key staff were able to key in and do their work, it would have been, there'd have been a bit of confusion.
Yes.
But we were able to go in as a team to our board of governors and say, advise them that, look, we need so many people to man our critical operations. These are the people, they sit within these departments, and this is how we can do it. So we were able to continue our operations. If we weren't able to continue our operations, it would have, number one, the two most important things that give confidence in an economy are your security and your economic management team.
Yeah.
So imagine if the central bank was not able to continue its operations. It doesn't give a confidence to the economy. We wouldn't have been able to do our job and set a good example to the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
So, and it could have had an impact on our currency as well. So the fact that we were able to do what we did seamlessly it's due to the fact that the bank as a whole was able to manage that particular risk, which is to the credit of all the staff of the bank, because we all worked as one.
Yes. Earlier on you talked about how this idea of risk management is kind of new, even in developed countries. Yet you are the CEO of the Risking Lab. Yes. So that tells me that risk, as I said earlier, cuts across all spheres. So why would you advise them to consider risk management in their business?
The way I practice risk management, the way I advocate it, is risk management is about managing your opportunities, the risk to your opportunities.
Yes.
So to be in business, you're out there to achieve a business objective, an economic objective. And in the path to achieving that economic objective will be fraught with risks and threats. So to be able to manage those threats and mitigate the risks that may affect your ability to actually achieve your business objectives, you need to manage the risk. If you don't manage them, a business can be taken out financially, taken out in terms of its processes, taken out in terms of the key individuals. Businesses are not in business in silos or they're in business to achieve an objective, be it economic, be it social objective, but the objectives that they are out there to achieve, and they must maximize their ability to achieve those objectives. So this is where risk management comes in. And it comes in both the private sector and the public sector. And one of the reasons why I established the Risking Lab is because when I look at the terrain in Nigeria, you alluded to it earlier. Nigeria is an economy that's always been dependent on oil. The quote of mine that you mentioned earlier, you quoted what I said on
the many opportunities presented.
Yes, there are many opportunities presented, but at the end of the day, the economy is very dependent on oil. We have a huge youth population, and we need to generate more jobs. And to generate more jobs, we need businesses to be able to scale up, to be successful in managing their risks, and therefore achieving their objectives and their access and ability to leverage the opportunities that are present in the economy and in the globe. I think one of the things that have come out of the COVID pandemic and the management of it is that the world has gone increasingly digital, and as a result, we've also seen that supply chains have, there's been a shift in supply chains. So it means for example, it means that I can produce something in Nigeria and I can have access to markets that I may not have had access to without the help, without having either very deep pockets or an extensive foreign network. Now I can reach out to entities, global companies, and I can supply into them without having huge pockets, hugely deep pockets, or knowing people. And also what we're seeing as well out of the pandemic is that there's an increase in remote working, which in itself can assist us in generating foreign exchange in Nigeria, because what could happen and what we're seeing is that people can work in Nigeria, be situated in Nigeria, and actually generate income from jobs working remotely with companies overseas. And that's happening right now.
All right, so you've also been described to me as a risk and opportunity management banker turned entrepreneur. So, opportunity management, what is that? I'm trying to get a sense of what opportunity management will be. I was reading, researching you. Someone said it's like Ivory Coast, which is the highest exporter of cocoa in the world, 33% of the cocoa they export, but has 0 chocolate factories. And Nigeria is the 4th largest exporter of cocoa, and we also, don't have chocolate factories. So logically, I suppose it means managing one's opportunity properly. Am I right?
Yes, it means that whatever opportunities there are, any business typically, one of the things we were taught in business school and just in management is to do a SWOT analysis. And that's an analysis of an organization's strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities that present themselves, and the threats to those opportunities. And businesses are in business, whether they're social entrepreneurs or real economy entrepreneurs, profit maximizers, is to achieve something. And the way we manage opportunities is something that I believe we can do much more with. You see, I always say that Nigeria has no business being the poverty capital of the world. Nigeria has a huge youth population. I was reading a few, I think last year, about there's a competition that Jack Ma, the Alibaba entrepreneur, the billionaire, he does a competition, a global competition for entrepreneurs. And this one, I think, was Africa focused. And of the 50 finalists, 12 of them were Nigerians. So what I see is that Nigeria has a huge population of young people. Nigeria is also huge on ideas. Nigeria is huge on grit. The climate is not the easiest climate to operate within, but there are opportunities. Which Nigerian exports are doing the best? I love to travel, and when I travel, I always engage people where I go. First of all, people were talking about our movies, our films. You go anywhere in Africa, anywhere in the world, people talk to you about Nollywood. And I was like, really? So we're really doing this quite well. First of all was our films, then it was our music. And I mean, we've seen it. We're winning Grammys now. We're breaking records. There are people, that I'm sure we would never have international music stars that we would never have dreamed of are literally lining up to do collaborations with our people. We've seen it with Wizkid, with Burna Boy, Davido. The other day I was seeing Davido on stage with Usher. These are big things, and it's no longer unequal partnerships. Our people are being sought out. So we've had, so first of all we had film, then we had music. Now we can leverage what's happening in those two spaces by following it with our fashion, and also our invisibles, i.e. our other talent, our talent in coding, our talent in IT, our talents in finance.
Yes.
So we can leverage all that and take us out of this rut of being the poverty capital of the world. So I'm not one that believes in lamenting and lamenting, because lamenting just depresses you and it doesn't take you forward and it doesn't create jobs. So regardless of the harshness of our environment, I believe that there are things that can be done.
Yes.
And it's because I think there are opportunities to have impact and to create jobs.
Join us again after the break. So, I know that you will be at London Africa Fashion Week. Is that your first catwalk ever?
Well, we did one in about a year or two ago, but that one we just did just to showcase our name.
Yes.
And you know, people wanted to buy pieces, but because I hadn't left the central bank, we were not.
You
doing
didn't want to be
commercial.
seen to be doing business.
Yes, not even be seen, but I just didn't want anything. I wanted everything to be clean.
Did you have formal training in fashion?
No, I just am able to draw, I'm able to conceptualize. I can see something and I can be like, oh, you know, like my book, I have a drawing book.
Yes.
And you can see how I draw something and then explain it to a tailor.
Yes.
And make sure that he gets it right. So I haven't had any training. But
So you
from
actually
school,
draw the design?
Oh, I do. I can't sew, I can't cut, but what I can do is I can draw, and I know which fabrics, I know how to.
And you have the eye for the detail.
Oh yes, I have a very strong eye for detail. That's one thing that cuts across my business risk side and the fashion side. And people think, oh, you know, you can't be left-brained and right-brained. I am. You know, I'm strong on risk management, analytics, and all of that.
But you're strong on fashion as well.
Yes, I'm fashion. I've written a book. I'm also into photography. It's another passion. So, yeah, and so it's about being comfortable in yourself and wanting to die empty.
Yes.
Having all the gifts that have been given to one
And harnessing all
to
the
harness
gifts.
everything
Yes.
to the benefit of my generation and the generations coming after me.
So someone said to me, you were a role model, and I agree. So I want you to speak now with parents who are raising girls. What advice would you give parents watching us now, especially Nigerian parents?
I think one of the first things is that girls shouldn't put themselves under unnecessary pressure. They should be confident in their own skin, whether they're dark, whether they're tall, whether they're light, whether they're fat, whether they're skinny. It really doesn't matter. I think it's to be confident in your own skin. That's one thing that's very important.
Yes.
Number two is to actually be very focused. Be very focused. Do well in school. Do the best that you can be at school. Because
And school is
still need that.
important.
School is important. You know, my daughter is very keen on fashion. She's quite talented as well. She's a strong creative, but she's studying economics at the moment.
Wow.
And why she's studying economics is because the reality of life is that we women, we go to where our husbands are. That's one. But even also quite importantly, for every career, anything you do, and risk management teaches that.
Yes.
For every plan A, have a plan B and a plan C. I think that's very important. So in the event that for whatever reason, fashion doesn't work out, she can fall back on her degree in economics and work in a World Bank or in a central bank or in another bank or United Nations.
Yes.
So just give yourself options in life. I think that's very important. And number three is that there's no path in life, you can do anything, anything that you want to do. And whichever decision you make today,
yes,
I think a lot of people put themselves under pressure and believe that, if I don't make the right decision today, it could be
it's over.
Like that. It's over. It's not over. You can study chemistry in school. I studied communication arts. I started out studying geophysics, and I did it at preliminary level because my father wanted me to do sciences.
Yes.
My father was a quantity surveyor, and he felt that the best thing for his first child to do was to be an architect.
Yes.
But my head, I'm good at mathematics, but I was crap at calculus. So anywhere I saw calculus, I failed it.
Yes.
Because my logical brain didn't understand the logic. I never got the logic of calculus. So the point I'm making is, so I started out doing that. I changed to communication arts.
Which is like the opposite end.
Total opposites. Because I just went somewhere where they would take me in so I could just finish my degree.
Yes.
I did that. And I went back. And my mother even told me then that, don't mind my father, don't worry. At the end of the day, the architect, the engineer, they all go and kneel down and beg the bank manager for money. Because I decided I was going to go into banking.
Yes.
And when I went into banking, it was public relations because I did communication arts. And I made up my mind, no, I don't want to be put in any pigeonhole. I want to have as broad a career as possible. So I went to do an MBA in finance and international business in Cardiff. So my point, back to the point, is that, look, whatever path you are on, you still have choices to choose what you want to do and who you want to be in life. Another thing that I think is very important is that parents shouldn't, put their children under too much pressure. When they fail, everybody fails. Barack Obama failed to become a state rep.
Yes.
In Chicago.
In Chicago, yes.
But you know what he did? He failed forward. He went back, dusted himself up, and became president. So in life, there will be many disappointments, and we need to be able to manage failure and to move forward.
That's critical. Manage failure.
Yes, manage failure, because there are all these things they don't teach us these at school.
They don't.
And through our journey through life, you may have difficulties with your children, difficulties with your husband, difficult bosses, but we must be able to move forward, to fail forward, to be able to manage these difficult situations. And it's that resilience that we also need to teach our children.
Yes.
And then the last thing I would say to parents with girls is that they must learn to dress the way they want to be addressed. If you go into a formal setting, you can't go into a bank and be wearing clothes that expose cleavage.
Yes.
It doesn't add up.
Skimpy
it
clothes.
Doesn't work. Skimpy clothes. There's a time and place for everything. So the way you present yourself is so important. And then finally is prepare. Whatever you do, I remember I would have meetings, and sometimes you'll be in a meeting. And being a woman, it happens. People, and if you're fashionable, if you're, people may think, you're an egghead.
Yes.
And some people may want to even, as a woman, show you up.
Yes.
The best answer is always your deliverables. Let your deliverables speak for you. And that's what I've always said, and what I've always said to all my female staff. And for your deliverables to speak for you, attention to detail, a culture of excellence, and a culture of preparation. I will go into meetings prepared. There's no question, from the most obscure points that you throw at me, I'll be able to answer it.
Yes.
So it's about preparation, and confidence.
Do you find, though, that today's generation of children, or today's generation, don't prepare enough? I find a lot of rambling. People thinking they'll get by without really putting in the hard slog that things need. Is that your experience too? Now that you're an entrepreneur, you're dealing with employees and different kinds of people in your day-to-day life and your work. How do you deal with that? How are you coping with that? Is this something that is a challenge for
yes,
you?
it's a big challenge, I have to say. Most people that you come across in the job market today, you know, and when people criticize government and they say this about government, and you know, what are you doing in your own space?
Yes.
You know, and what I find is that yes, there isn't a culture of excellence. People will give you things, pieces of work that are totally below par,
Yes.
totally not presentable, and it's clear that they've not put effort into it. They, you know, the work ethic in Nigeria is not what it needs to be to take us out of poverty.
Yes.
I remember my boss then would say, he told someone, he didn't tell me, that I'm one person that I can give him a piece of work, do a report, and he will not need to read it.
Yes.
He can present it.
Without reading.
Without reading, knowing that I would have done an excellent job. You know, and what I say to people, and I say to my own children, because I have a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old,
Yes.
don't bring your boss problems, bring solutions.
Yes.
Risk management typically is about highlighting the risks, highlighting the threats, highlighting the problems.
But
so some people say
providing the solution.
no, typically it's not. That's not been the culture.
Right.
It's about building the frameworks that would allow you to identify the risk, manage the risk, control the risk. But how about the other side? Because with every risk, there's an opportunity.
Yes.
So that's why the way I practice risk management, I will not present a risk without presenting a recommendation concerning an opportunity. Minimize the risk, maximize the opportunity. So that's why I've always spoken about, even on my LinkedIn profile, for years it said risk and opportunity management professional. It was only recently at a conference, risk conference, that they hired somebody from overseas, from Japan or somewhere, and he was talking about opportunity management. And I'm like, oh, really?
It's a thing
That's
now.
nice. It's a thing now.
Yes.
But you know, sometimes a prophet is not appreciated in his homeland.
Yes.
We like to hear these from foreigners.
Yes.
Before we take them seriously.
Join us again after the break. Right, welcome back. Now, in this risk management, you speak of three major benefits for companies or people that incorporate it into their business. You talk about improved business performance, stronger financial sector, and tangible contributions to economic development or growth. So talk us through those three.
Why risk management is important and how it can result in improved business performance is that it helps to an organization to understand its risk, the risk that it faces, and in understanding the risk, you therefore try your best to identify the risk that you face. You then try to manage them and try to control them, the ones that could have a negative impact on one's business. So in doing that, you're able to maximize and leverage opportunities. And when I say maximize opportunities, that means to derive the most benefit from the opportunities that you
In
chase.
other words, problems will happen.
Yes.
But when you're giving lemons, you make lemonade, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And you're able to make the lemonade to a good quality and a good quantity, economically viable quantity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second one was stronger financial sector and tangible contribution to economic growth.
Yeah, a stronger financial sector is the same, really. It's the same as the first. Because if your institutions, your financial sector is strong and resilient, risk management helps in resilience. It helps build resilience because it basically all the gaps to performance, all the potential lapses in performance via which would occur by either weaknesses in your controls or weaknesses in your strategy. All those would have been considered under your risk management framework. And, so in doing that and making sure that all the players within the financial sector manage their risks properly, it strengthens the sector. A strong financial sector is very important to the economy of any country, because they help to lend money, they support business, they employ labor as well, and so it's in our national interest to have a strong financial sector. So that's how risk management helps build a strong financial sector. In terms of an economy, it's literally the same thing. Risk management, like I said, I mentioned the two countries, Chile and Haiti. So it's what we see, or what we saw from that was that Chile was able to protect the lives and assets of its citizens. So when a country gets its risk management right, and it's also, you build a risk culture, because it's also about building a risk culture. Chile had a risk culture, Haiti did not have a risk culture. So, and it's important for a country like Nigeria, because we all know, even within companies, that resources are not ad infinitum. There's a limit to the resources available. We've seen that in Nigeria, and that's why the government has had to borrow so much money. And borrowing comes at a cost. There was some analysis that I saw the other week that showed that our interest payments on our liabilities, on our borrowings, is seriously biting into the revenue that the government generates. That's available to pay for infrastructure, pay civil servant salaries, pay for health infrastructure, etc. So it's very important. Risk management helps to maximize whatever resources that you have, to maximize their economic value by preventing loss. That's essentially
key. Preventing loss. And so that means that we can apply to every facet of our lives. If you're running a business today, rather than wait till the problems come and you panic, if you can think of the risks that come with your business, then you can prepare towards handling all those problems when they arise.
Yes, absolutely. Because also, sometimes in our journey through life or through business, you may set out to do A and B, but something may just come up, either when you do your pest analysis, either via the politics, via the economics, via science, via technology, that can just take you out of business if your business is not nimble. Like for me, so I've started with the Risking Lab and my clothing brand OYAATO, but I also see that OYAATO is high end and it's been well received. We're also going to be at the Africa Fashion Week London, and we're closing the catwalk. But I've also seen, given the devaluation or the depreciation that we've seen in the Naira, I've advised people that we also need to improve our foreign income generation. So I'm looking at ways, and that's the third business that I'm going to do, or the third facet of OYAATO, is to come up with something that will also generate foreign earnings whilst creating jobs here, because I'm very, very particular about job creation in Nigeria.
Is that a throwback from your days in the CBN?
No, it's what actually brought me to Nigeria.
Right.
Because I've always been passionate about Nigeria. I've been passionate about the economy. I've been passionate about politics. I've always been told that I should go into politics because I've been studying politics and, been a very keen political observer for many, many decades now. But I'm not interested in being a politician. I've always taken the view that not all of us can affect or impact our generation via politics, but we can use the technical skills that we have, the education that we have for the common good of our people. That's the stance I have taken. So that's why I'm in business in Nigeria and I haven't gone back to the UK.
To the UK. All right, so thank God you've talked about politics now. You're proudly Yoruba, proudly Ekiti State. You are a director of Fountain Holdings Limited, the investment arm of Ekiti State government. I was surprised. I didn't know that state governments actually invest as an entity until I saw that. So what does Fountain do, for instance? Look for business for Ekiti State? Is that what it does?
What it is, essentially, Ekiti has a number of assets. And what we seek to do is to maximize those assets, to maximize the returns from those assets to the benefit of the good people of Ekiti State. So that has been what we have done during this tenure, but that is not to say that we will not also seek alternative uses for the assets that we have, for example, and we have a number of assets. We have assets in, there's Ekiti House in Abuja, which is in a prime location. We have property in Lagos. We have property in Ekiti. We have factories in Ekiti. We have Ire Bricks. There's Ikogosi Warm Springs, which is a tourist destination. So we have quite a few things. But the whole idea is to maximize their commercial return, which will be of benefit to the IGR, the internally generated revenue of Ekiti State. And then obviously, we, as resources allow, we would like to be more opportunistic as well, and actually seek other assets or other means of generating income that would be to the benefit of our people.
And you speak so well like a politician, you know. I'm surprised you don't, you're not considering a career in politics. Senator Fatogbe or Governor Fatogbe sounds about right, you know.
Yeah, there was a standing joke here. An neighbor of mine actually said, "Oh, why don't you run for governor in your state?" I said, "Well, if you can get more than 5 people, if you can count my supporters on more than your 2 hands, then come back to me." No, I'm not interested. I will always remain a keen political observer because I have an interest in seeing good governance and seeing people that can come into political office that are sincere and that will actually impact positively the lives of our people.
Would you consider political appointment though? You know, now you've left Central Bank, you're still a director with Ekiti State. Federal appointment, you know, Minister for Finance, for instance, CBN Governor. Why not?
Right now, I'm really focused on my entrepreneurial things. I was once speaking to a governor who was saying, "Oh, would you not want to join a cabinet or do something?" And when I presented the Risky Lab to him, he agreed with me that actually, if you start the Risky Lab and you do it properly, you would have major socio-economic impact. So for me, it's about impact. It is what will allow me have impact? What would allow me empty myself for the benefit of...
To have the greatest impact
on my people, and my people are Nigerians, on our economy. You don't know how upset I am by the fact that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. We have no business being there. We have been gifted as a people. We've been gifted as a country. You know, we need to change that narrative.
And you're an author. I've just seen your book, Inspiring a Generation, and that photograph on the book looks to me like former President of the United States, Barack Obama, and his wife, Michelle. Why the choice of the Obamas on your book?
Because I wrote it at a time in my life when I was going through 1 or 2 issues, and I needed inspiration. And I'm someone that's very big on inspiration and on making sure that one doesn't stay in a hole you know, that whatever challenge we have,
Yes.
I'm big on turning lemons into lemonade.
Yes.
So I was going through that challenge, and I realized I needed inspiration, and I read a lot, and and like I said, I'm a keen political observer.
Yes.
So I was observing I was in the UK at the time, and I was observing what was happening across the pond, as we call it.
Yes.
And I saw, and I started following Barack Obama, what he was doing, and I was so inspired. And you know, I followed him so closely. In the end, I was so inspired to the point that I decided to write a book about it, because I was actually fascinated by the way he ran his campaign,
and
how
emerged.
he came as a rank outsider that was totally ignored.
Yes.
And he was ignored, you know, underestimated. And I found underestimation to be a very, very powerful weapon.
It can be very positive when you're underrated all the time.
I love it.
Yes.
I love underestimation.
Yes.
So he was underestimated, and you know, he didn't have the money to run the campaign, but you know, he was the first one that started this whole like crowdfunding thing, and before they knew it, he had amassed more money than had been seen in any other presidential campaign.
Yes.
And you know, and by the time they noticed him, it was too late to stop him.
Yes. That book is available, sold everywhere?
Yes, it's not sold everywhere because I decided to just sort of keep it not widely circulated at the time, because I was a central bank and obviously very, very busy.
Yes.
But I know people have used it for training, training boards, training their staff. I've gone to places where I've delivered speeches on it.
Yes.
It's essentially a leadership book,
Yeah.
a leadership stroke motivational book woven around the political campaigns of President Barack Obama.
Right. Okay, so you've talked about OYAATO, that's the fashion bit, because preparing for this, I thought from finance to fashion, the only thing they both have in common is the letter F. But I assume that your passion for fashion would have taken a back seat all the years that you were in banking, the Bank of England, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and possibly now that you're retired. I hate to use the word retired because you look so young.
I was going to say that. I always reject that title of retired.
Yes.
I came to the end of my tenure. I'm not retired.
Because when you talk about retirement, you expect to see a really old person with you're vibrant and all that. So was it difficult subsuming this fashion passion while you were at the CBN, or did you embrace it, attending meetings, you know, in high fashion, you know, sort of giving Philip to that thing in you?
Yeah. By Nigerian public sector rules state that you cannot do anything else apart from farming and your public sector role.
Yes.
Which honestly I have serious question marks about because I feel we can increase the productivity of our GDP and GDP per capita if we were to be a bit more liberal in its application, as long as there's no conflict of interest.
Yes.
So yes, when I was at CBN, I did, but what I didn't do OYAATO. I just, you know, I thought about it. I was towards the end. I started designing. I designed. A friend of mine reminded me, but don't you remember when we were in uni that you used to design our ball gowns?
Yeah.
I had actually forgotten about that. But one of the things I did was I gave myself creative expression. And what I did, Ankara in the public sector is a thing that you only do on Friday. Right. And that's when people come in their beautiful outfits and you think you're attending a political meeting of sorts because of the way. And our traditional attire is actually very beautiful. Yes. But what I then decided to do is when I started making clothes, I had this view that, you know, what's stopping Ankara from coming into the boardroom? Yes. You know, that why not? So I would make Ankara dress suits and make a point of wearing them to meetings. And, you know, it's a way of expression, but it also shows the fact, it shows the versatility of Ankara, and some of these are traditional fabrics.
Yes.
And, you know, no one ever said, oh, why are you wearing this, or, you
it's
know,
not professional.
because I think sometimes we need to use not only our vocal voices, but we can use our physical voices to express and show that, look, we can do this, to showcase opportunities. And I'm actually looking forward to the day that it will be announced, because I know there was some movement about it when I was at CBN, to say that we can use traditional fabrics to make corporate wear. Because, and I'll show you some pictures later. You know, they were always, and I'd wear them internationally. I remember when we had Fountain Holdings, we went into one of our farms, and we went to one of our dams with the state governor. Even my swearing in at Fountain Holdings, I wore an Ankara dress suit. You know, why not? So yes, I sort of suppressed it in terms of not doing anything commercial, but I did wear my clothes.
So I couldn't let you go without talking about the story of how you landed at the CBN. There are many stories out there about how you were headhunted. So you have to tell us, you know, how, you know, all the companies you worked with in England, you ended up at the Bank of England, and then suddenly you're at the central bank.
Okay, it's quite, yes, I've heard all sorts of stories, even from my cousins, you know, it's quite interesting. But what happened was, I was in the UK, I was working, and I was also working as an entrepreneur. I was doing this multi-million-pound house. But we came home from my father's funeral, and my young son was the last person on the stage. And I realized that, and they love Nigeria. So I realized that, keeping them in England, that these my children actually love Nigeria. We had a fantastic lifestyle in the UK, big house, beautiful area, and everything. And I thought, maybe we should consider coming back to Nigeria. And some of my friends that had relocated. One of them is a Gambian, had come to be a partner at Deloitte. And he had also said to me, you know, your skills are needed in Nigeria. And so I kept on getting that message. And so I said one day, I said to him, this is my friend, Alpha. He's the Gambian guy that was at Deloitte. I said to him, okay, I'll consider it. What's available? So he sent me to jobs immediately. And then I spoke to another Egmo. I'd helped him set up Phillips Consulting in the UK at that time. And so I sent him my CV. I said, oh, Edmond, look, I fully sure, Edmond Phillips, yes. And I said to him, oh, I think I'm going to consider coming back to Nigeria. So he sent out my CV and got great responses very quickly. And then he said to me, oh, but would you consider Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria? And I'm like, no, that's a really old and fuddy-duddy institution. That was my attitude, because it was civil service or public sector, and I wanted, you know, something a bit more fast-paced, a bit more. And he said, oh no, don't look at it like that. The new central bank, there's a new governor, and he's quite good, you know. And he said, oh, he's done an interview for the Financial Times. Read it. So I read it. And I'm like, because remember what I said about using my skills for the development, and his emphasis on central banking was not about inflation management, but it was about development. So that caught me, that really caught my attention. So I'm like, okay. Then a friend of mine came to visit me in the UK as well. Not visit me, but he came to my house. OZ Giwamu, he died a few months ago, very sad. And so I told him, he said, but why would you want to give up this lifestyle and go back to Nigeria? I said, I think it's time. So I said, okay, here's his number, reach out to him. And that's how I sent him a message and introduced myself. And he said, okay, whenever you're in Nigeria, come see me. I'd gone to see Mrs. Bola Adeshola, who's a good Egbo of mine.
Yes.
And she just called him up, said,
Senior
there's a lady that
Bola.
wants to see you. She's my good Egbo.
Yes.
So she just called him up. So next day I was on a flight to Abuja, saw him, had a great conversation, and it was in the heat of the global financial crisis.
Yes.
I took a book on the global financial crisis to him, loved the book, so had the interview. At the end of it, I said, okay, before we seal this, which football team do you support? And he said Arsenal.
And that was
Sealed.
it.
That was it.
It's been wonderful speaking with you
Thank
for
you. It's a
an
pleasure,
hour.
Angela.
You know,
Thank
you
you.
really educated us about risk management and everything's been interesting. I think the person that recommended me to speak with you was right. You are a role model.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for spending
Thank
an hour
you,
with me
Angela.
today.
No, it's been my pleasure. It's been quite enjoyable. Thank you
And
very much.
thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetunmobi.